Around the world with the He and She Show. With hosts, married stand-up comedians Doug and Teresa Wyckoff. With special guests sharing their tales and adventures. Now your hosts.
Hello!
He does that every time.
It's my trademark now. I don't know. It's awesome.
Every time it's worse. I'm Teresa.
And I'm Doug.
And
She's Teresa.
We are here today with a very special guest. I'm going to do a full-on intro. That's cool.
Can you say his name right
now while you do the intro?
Well, first I'll say his name. And we have Ethan Embry with us. Did I say it right?
Yep.
That's like
Did
one
I
of the...
say it right?
That was honestly one of the first times I've said names right. I'm not good. And yeah, Ethan, you may have seen him in all of the things.
Movies and stuff.
And TV. You're basically literally in all the things. Like, I'll watch a movie and all of a sudden there you pop up.
He's in that thing you do.
Well, yeah, that's kind
all
of a
the things.
famous one. And Empire Records, that's a huge famous one. And Grace Frankie he's on that right now, co-starring on that show. So he's on all the things, and he's with us. Yay!
Hi guys.
Hi.
And we also used to be neighbors, which I think is a very important detail to include in introduction. I don't know. Do your listeners know?
Yeah, oh yeah, they know all about our RV life.
We actually, the first quarantine episode we did was with Dennis and Melissa, and they sat outside the window.
Yeah.
And we recorded from inside, and I had the mic all stretched out on a cord out there for them.
Who are other neighbors of ours as well. So yeah, you were here.
Wait a minute.
We
didn't take the dog to go pee yet.
Ginger
pee.
Ginger pee.
We'll fix this in post.
Oh my God.
I think it probably because you're hello. Is that what is it that you say at the
You
sign?
said hello. I think she'd perch right up to that.
Yeah,
she was like, potty?
Yeah, it's ginger language. Hello.
Yeah. So we'll edit this a little bit out while the Ginge is potty.
It's like, we met at the dog park. We met at Ginger's potty hole.
Did meet at the dog park.
Yep.
Mm-hmm. Yes, at the RV park. And yeah, that was kind of an embarrassing moment situation.
Are we going to tell that story?
I don't know if we should tell the story.
You've done it from stage. You just doesn't know it yet.
I don't know how embarrassing this embarrassing moment is, because I don't know how much of this you caught. But you've actually starred in my stand-up a little bit, because I do a set about the incident that happened, and I don't mention you by name.
She just says, a big famous celebrity, guys, this happened to me.
So you lie.
Of course, it makes the story much better.
But should I tell my side of it, and you could tell me how much you actually heard?
Absolutely.
Okay.
It's news to me.
Is it? Oh, it might not even be that embarrassing.
You might not even know.
It might, this whole thing. Okay, so I met you.
Should I give how I remember the introduction?
Yes, do that first.
Okay.
And then.
No, I want to hear your version first.
Okay, yeah, okay, I'll do my version first, and then you can tell me the reality.
Okay, do it.
Okay, so I'm going to back up Tidge, because I had seen you around the RV park, and I thought that looks like Ethan Embry from Empire Records. That's how I said it in my head, from Empire Records. And I thought, but no, he wouldn't be here living in a van, but maybe.
Down by the river.
The LA River. So whatever. So that was like months before this. And then I met you at the dog park. Our dogs are very much twin-like creatures. They look very similar. They played. Met you. It turned out that you were you. And you were really Ethan Embry from Empire Records, Grace Frankie. And I was like, oh, cool. And I have a tendency, when I meet celebrities or people who I know that are somewhat famous, I do really embarrassing things. Like I say there's a whole incident with Vince Vaughn that we won't get into.
She once tackled Adam Levine and his girlfriend broke up with him after that.
That's not what happened. I knocked him over. He fell down.
He's just a slight little feller.
I screamed and ran away.
Adam Levine story too. So I think everybody's got one.
Everyone has one. So I met you, we chatted, you were very lovely, very gracious, and you had given me your number so that I could text you when Ginger, my dog, wanted to go out again, right?
Yep.
Which was very nice of you.
We didn't eat each other. They're both capable of eating each other, and they didn't.
And they didn't.
Rare find.
Yep.
So I came home and I was holding my phone and I was all excited to tell Doug that A, it really was you, because I had mentioned I thought it was you, and he was like, there's no way it's him. And then B, I was like, this is so cool. Like, I finally didn't embarrass myself. And I think I might have even gone into like how I knew you from like the whole thing. And I was like, I didn't even fuck it up. I didn't embarrass myself.
No, you said I met a celebrity, and I go, and you didn't fuck it up?
Yeah. And I said, no, I didn't fuck it up. And then I looked down at my phone and I saw your face staring up at me. And I was like, why is he staring at me? And then I was like, oh shit, I hit the number with my thumb and it's on FaceTime. And I was like, I don't know how much he's heard. So
wait, though.
I deleted, I actually stopped it. And then I deleted the whole line because I didn't want to know how long it was. And I
threw her phone.
Threw my phone. And I screamed, I did fuck it up.
And I'm like, why did you delete that? I'm like, how long was he listening? And she's like, I don't know. I deleted it.
So that's.
I didn't catch any of it.
None of it?
Nope. I do remember because we traded phones. And then, like, I think I shot you a text, or you shot me a text with your guys' space number on there, you know, because at the park that we live at, there each space has a little space number, like an apartment. So you texted me your guys' space number, and then I very faintly remember like a call coming through or something, you know, but it was obvious that it was I took it as a butt dial. So I missed all of that on my end.
Oh, man. And it was so, I thought it was the most embarrassing thing. That's funny.
Did I say anything? Because maybe I should be really embarrassed.
No, I think I avoided that whole section of the RV park in which you live for at least another couple weeks after that.
Which is hard to do because I was right by the bathroom.
That's true. I just didn't use the restrooms for 2 weeks, and that really did that.
I was like, are you going to bathe anytime soon? Or
no, we have a shower.
Okay.
No, anyway, so that's how I met you, was here at the RV park.
Yep.
And
my side of the introduction was just, a dog that Cedar could get along well with, and a nice dog owner. And then I think we talked a little bit about you guys doing your comedy and Sunny starting to do hers.
Mm-hmm.
And about a month or so after, you guys were gracious enough to come to one of her shows. So it's all good on my end.
That's so funny, though. You've been doing movies and stuff since I was a kid and you were a kid. We're the same age, I think.
My mom came out with us because back in Los Angeles, she lives by herself, and being alone without having a quarantine buddy is hard, you know?
Yeah.
So Sunny and I, we're fortunate enough to have space for her here. So we took her out here to Atlanta with us. And I was talking to her this morning, and we have an argument going. I think I started earlier than she says I started. I remember starting at like 8 or 9, but she says, nope, it was 10. But it's a narrow window within the youth period.
You're still considered, I feel like, a child actor.
Yeah, I'll take that.
Under 18.
Yeah, I had a secret Twitter account for a while that was @ChildActor. It was during my drinking and using days.
Oh.
And I'm glad it's gone now.
You know what? That was smart.
Are those all gone before you mentioned it?
Yeah, I think they're gone. Okay.
Yeah, that is smart. I think most people should think about having secret Twitter accounts so they don't accidentally get canceled in the future.
Do. I mean, I thought about having one.
Yeah, you should. So having been in stuff since that young, and the movie, I'm sorry, I just blanked on the name of the movie, even though I saw it when I was a kid. The one that you did as a child with Ed.
Dutch.
Yeah, Dutch.
Yep.
So you've been in stuff for a while. Do you get recognized a lot? Do people recognize you? And does it ever get super awkward?
The other day, just yesterday, I did a grocery store run.
Mm-hmm.
Before all of this happened, you guys know it was a topic of conversation from the middle of January. Like, I've been obsessed with this COVID.
Oh, yeah. You're like the...
You're the canary in the coal mine for us. You started our awareness, and thank you for that. So.
Yeah, we'll get into that in a bit. Yeah.
But because I managed to, I heard about it early, I had gotten one of those masks that car painters use, you know?
Ooh, the good ones.
Yeah, really nice. And so I had one of those. Anyway, and I can't donate it because I opened it already. Can't give a stinky, smelly mask to somebody. So, and I only have one, so I'm not hoarding.
We got it. You're good.
Yesterday at Trader Joe's, I'm wearing that mask with these hot pink filters. I got my glasses on and a baseball hat to cover my hair from the vid. And this lady in this lady in the produce section is walking by, and she goes, "Coyote, I love you on Grace and Frankie." I'm like, "What the fuck? How the fuck did you do that? What the fuck? How? I got the beard, the glasses,
face mask."
Yeah. So sometimes it happens. Sometimes it happens. Sometimes I'm successful in being what's the word that I'm
Anonymous.
Yeah.
You ever have people come up and say, "Will Forte, you're awesome"?
Will Forte.
I wish it was Will Forte.
Huh?
I wish it was Will Forte.
Is that his celebrity look? His
Yeah,
other celebrity look like?
Well, when
Is
they
that a
both
thing?
grow their beard out, they have glasses. They look very similar.
Do they?
You don't think so? You never get that?
I don't see it. I don't see it. I got a Will 5T going on over here.
Oh, me and you are having a forehead contest, that's for sure.
I think I win.
So speaking of the Ronas, you were living here filming, and now you are in Atlanta because of the Ronas, right?
Yeah, we were there. So we lived at the park that you guys are at last summer. That's when we first met, or like from last spring through summer, 2019. And then Sunny and my wife and I went back to the park to do another season in January. And I think we did 6 episodes so far, which is about a third of what we were going to do. I think we were going to do 16 or 18 or something like that. And
this was the final season, right?
Yeah, this was going to be the last one. I think all the dates, man, time and dates are starting to be.
I know.
Fade.
So mushy. But I think it was early March that we shut down.
Mm-hmm.
And then Sunny and I was worried. One of my biggest sources of anxiety in the early stages, when everything was starting to shut down, I was really worried about unrest. You know, when people suddenly have no money coming in and all of that, they can't pay their rent, and the government's not doing enough to support people.
Mm-hmm.
And living in LA during our previous unrest moment during the LA riots in the 90s, I was worried about something like that.
Mm-hmm.
I didn't want to leave my son until it seemed like people weren't gonna act like that, you know. He's 21, so he stayed. He's in LA, but we stayed there at the park. What, like 2 weeks past, something like that.
Yeah.
We finally said we need to go now, or we're gonna be stuck here until August.
Which is probably true.
Yeah.
You were like Doug said, kind of like the canary in the coal mine. I think we were nervous about it pretty soon.
Yeah.
But it seemed like everyone around us thought we were crazy.
Yep.
For being concerned about it.
Well,
but I think you and our other friend in the park.
Well, I think Ethan was posting stuff that was like, "Hey guys, has anyone thought about this? Look at this," and you were like giving out all the information in one spot that you weren't getting in other places. Like now on Twitter, they have like your whole COVID updates at the very top. You were COVID updates before that existed.
How soon do you think it was that you started like, okay, this is a real thing and we should all be worried?
There was, I mean, I think they shut down China the 18th or something like that. January 18th, I think, is when they shut down Wuhan. That was the first time that I really took notice of it, because if you know anything about the Chinese government, you know that they're not the best human rights record, and
not very forthcoming either.
Yeah, and at that point, we had, like, they were saying there were a couple hundred cases and like 40 deaths or something like that. It wasn't horrific yet. And then they shut the whole country and closed the economy. It seemed like something wasn't lining up. But the thing that really got me was when epidemiologists, around the world, there's one guy, Neil Ferguson, who he had this YouTube video under the J IDEA, is the institution he was talking about, and his forecast for what we were going to see was frightening, and that was early February. And I was still in that place, like, are they overreacting? Is this, like, do you trust? I didn't know who Neil Ferguson was before this. And, he was the one saying 40 to 70% of the global population will contract it. And it just seemed crazy.
Wow.
But that's when I first started getting a little afraid of what was going on. But
well, it was interesting because your Twitter was kind of like, there would be times that something would pop up on Twitter, like I'm going through and you'd see you talk about something, and then maybe an hour later it would be breaking news on CNN.
That's what's so rad about Twitter. If you follow these epidemiologists or reporters, when a reporter or a scientist puts something out, as long as they're a trusted source, like, that they're real, they're not going to sensationalize something, and you trust the source that it's coming from. They put out the things that they learn a few hours before they're able to write the article and get their editor's sign off and then get it to print. That's one of the things. I'm addicted to Twitter because of that. Like, you can right away, but then you have to be careful, because if they are being sensationalist or getting something wrong, there's not a lot of rebuttal at that period. It goes both ways. Sometimes you'll amplify something that many other people turn around and say, this is wrong, this isn't right, or you'll be one of the first to hear that you have to get to your storm cellar.
Well, yeah. I mean, when they were having fires too in LA, I would always look at Twitter, and it would be sometimes an hour before it would be anywhere else. You'd have the news on Twitter because people would tweet about it.
And in a situation like a fire, like, I was using meteorologist Twitter. We had a big line of storms that just came through the South on Saturday and Sunday. And instead of getting on the typical weather channels and things like that, you follow the National Weather Service on Twitter, follow the direct meteorologists that the National Weather Service are getting their information from, and you can see when something's coming your way or your family member's way. And an hour during a fire or a tornado is a lifetime,
I think that's what it's come down to is people becoming their own investigative reporters. You gather all the information from all the sources, just like a reporter would. You're just not putting it all together and writing an article. Maybe you write it on a blog post or share it on something. But
an editor, like an edit, because they're doing the reporting, but I guess we're kind of deciding what we digest, maybe.
Yeah. Yeah, you have to be a critical thinker, though. You have to actually, like, research a little bit yourself and not just take things at face value.
Yeah, that almost sucks now, is that they reference all these things and they say these things, and instead of being able to just believe it and accept the article, you have to go check all the references and you have to follow up. It was so much easier when you could just trust the reporter.
Yeah, yeah. Or when you thought you could. Because, yeah. So anyway, now it comes to finally people start to take it seriously. I remember the night that I think everyone started to take it seriously was the night that both Tom Hanks came out with having it, A, and then B, the NBA kind of shut down.
Right. And then, was it, which one was first? Was it, the NBA, the basketball league.
It was like within an hour of each other. It was like all at the same time. I think, like, our family literally did not believe it was a real thing until that moment.
Right. Yeah.
That kind of triggered all the shutdowns.
It happened so fast.
Some people still don't think it's real. But
time that we shut down, and then that weekend, every show in Hollywood shuttered around the world at once.
Was it a surprise to you when your production shut down, or did you see it coming?
I couldn't see it continuing, especially like not only on film sets. It's such a you work in such close quarters with there's
a lot of people.
On our show, there's I think 250 people on payroll, and on set there's between 80 and 100 of them.
Wow.
And you're in this tight quarter all day, and you're sharing food. There's a buffet of food. It's just like it's a nightmare scenario for an infectious disease. And there was one show in Chicago that it did pass around. I can't remember the name of it. But that happened the day before they decided to shut down. And then you just combine, back then in early March, they were saying it's mostly people in their 80s that are most at risk, and that's our whole cast.
That's like the main stars of the show, yeah. And they're all like American treasures as well.
And I mean, we know now that many people young our age have succumbed to this, and but yeah, I knew it was only a matter of time until that.
So I have a friend of mine, her and I were talking about the film industry yesterday, and she had a friend who says it's never coming back. It's not going to come back for years. It's done with. And then she was like, well, no, everyone really needs content and is like freaking out about content right now. So as soon as they can come back, they'll probably start producing again. What are your thoughts about that?
I would think if you combine the two things, that it is a major industry. It's a corporate environment.
It's a lot of money involved. Yeah,
a lot of money, massive corporations, Disney and all of the networks and things. Netflix is one of the largest companies in the world now. So you take that element, and then Hollywood also is typically a progressive environment, left-leaning. I think that Hollywood will start mobilizing again when I just saw the other day that the West Coast governors are putting a plan together.
Mm-hmm.
They feel that it's safe to open up. Washington, Oregon, and California are going to team up. And when those governors feel like their experts are saying it's safe enough to do these certain steps, and I believe Cuomo's probably going to move more in step with them. I think that's when Hollywood will start moving again. I am concerned that, I live in Georgia, and I am concerned that there will be some states that want to get moving before it's fully safe to do it.
Mm-hmm.
They're going to politicize this. That's what will start. The next step, when numbers start dropping, it's going to become a political environment.
Well, it already has.
It started yesterday, actually, technically.
I mean, I think it's been like that from the get-go. Ever since Trump said it was a Democratic hoax, he was the one that politicized it, in my opinion.
Yeah. It. I think too. They're going to start. The economic fallout from this is massive. I'm fortunate enough that work has been well, and the way we live is below our means, so we're okay for a while.
Yeah.
But so many people, did you see the San Antonio food bank lines?
Wow, that was heartbreaking.
It's crazy.
And that's just one city. That's not. Yeah. I saw one from Los Angeles. It was 4 miles from the Forum.
Yeah.
Yeah, the Los Angeles lines was crazy out there.
We were talking between each other yesterday how there have been definitely times in our lives that we would have had to have used a food bank situation, and we're really grateful that this is not that time right now. But to see that and know what that feels like, to be literally hungry and have no other way to get food.
Yep.
It's scary. I mean, there's a lot of people who are in this situation too that maybe haven't ever had to have been in this situation before.
Those people are called new poor. We're old poor.
Wow. I feel like that's kind of offensive in like a few levels.
But I get it.
But it's really funny.
I'm old poor that's just been lucky for the past couple of years.
That's how we all see it, right?
So
that's going to affect more, hopefully we're able to keep the numbers from exploding, because we're still only looking at a very small percent of the population that has gotten this. You know, unless we find out that so many more of us are asymptomatic and get this virus without showing even mild symptoms, unless that comes out where we've all had it. But I doubt that's going to happen. But a very small percentage of the population has gotten this. And if we open back up and there's still a chance for this to spread the way that it's capable of spreading, it's a rock and a hard place, like that typical catch-22, because right now we're seeing the economic impact of this, and it's economically hurting a lot more people than the people that are suffering through their health.
well, and it's invisible. It's hard to say to someone, okay, you should starve right now and not be able to pay your bills and be really stressed out for this thing that you can't see and no one necessarily around you yet has. I mean, that's asking of people a lot. Yep. Faith, and if their main leaders don't have that same faith, then how could they even like see it?
That's my biggest concern, really, is like what you'd mentioned before, is not necessarily the virus so much. I mean, that's inevitable. You can't really avoid it if you know, I mean, other than all the steps you can do to avoid it. But people are still going to get sick. But the thing that's going to happen is the civil unrest, when people can't pay their rent. Yep. And then when they can't buy food's the big you know, factor here.
Yep.
Because like she says, when if you have to choose of invisible warrior or food, everyone chooses food every time.
But then they all die from the invisible disease.
Well, and that's the thing we're seeing now, like that these food processing plants, the meat processing plants, that they've kept these workers as necessary workers, and they didn't really change any of their operations, and now they had to close the whole plant because half the people got sick. So it's like, yeah, it's fake, but then everyone gets sick, and you're like, oh, and I'm afraid that's what Texas and Florida is going to look like.
When we drove across, I think, again, the dates are all mushed, and I think it was mid-March, I think, is around when
a few weeks ago, yeah.
Mid to late March, we drove across from California to Atlanta, because we were lucky enough to have a situation where we had the bathroom in the RV, and we didn't have to stay at hotels. We didn't use a single public bathroom, so we could limit that exposure and eat in the van, cook your own food, blah, blah, blah. But driving across, you saw it immediately, the difference between how California is taking it and how Arizona and Texas. And then you get into Louisiana, and we got into Louisiana either a day or two after their stay-home order.
Yeah.
And finally, the streets were empty. Like we cut across the 20, which is going through Shreveport. So it's slightly more rural than down in New Orleans.
Yeah.
But it was emptier than Los Angeles, like very few cars on the road. You know?
Well, that's good, because it really exploded in Louisiana, pretty hardcore. What are some of the other things you noticed when you were driving across the country? Did you notice any places where they didn't think it was real, or that you noticed that they were just kind of being blasé about it?
Again, we would limit most of our exposure would be gas stations. Mm-hmm. You know, slept at truck stops, and we'd fuel up every couple hundred miles and keep going. We did stop. We needed to do a grocery refill when we got to Dallas, so I went into a Dallas grocery store, and I left really angry because there was no change. I think as I was walking out, there was one older woman that was going in with a cloth mask on, you know, so we kind of gave a heads up. But in the store, that Dallas, and then we had to get groceries again in Birmingham, and it was like any other day, you know. I'm hopefully now it's a different scenario.
Yeah.
But even Atlanta they didn't start limiting people going into their grocery stores until Walmart started doing it last week.
Wow. How is it there in Atlanta? Has like the differences between there and Los Angeles?
People are starting to. I mean, it's so individual. I guess it's probably coming down to not having the loudest voice to follow. Like people, Chris Cuomo has really made a difference with being a leader, having his voice. But there really isn't. Our president is still not taking this as seriously as it needs to. So some people are really paying attention and changing their behavior, and some people aren't. Even in LA, like people were still going to Griffith Park,
in mass.
Yeah, or even before that, like their kids are playing they had to shut the parks down to get people to stop going.
Yeah, well, we went to the grocery store for we had stocked up pretty well. So we were in for a month before we had to go to a grocery store really again. And he went in and I was in the parking lot of a grocery store, the one right by our house.
Yeah.
And it was shocking. They had originally set up where there was they had the places where people wait in line.
The 6-foot spaces all
but
taped
they weren't
out.
doing that anymore.
They were just letting people walk in and walk around. Some people had masks, some didn't. And there's a mask order in place. But
yeah, in Los Angeles, you have to wear a mask.
This was recent.
This was a week ago.
Last week.
And as I was sitting in the car, I saw like workers with the carts, like no mask, nothing on their hands, like not at all protected. And I saw one lady come out and just cough like outwardly, no covering of her hands or anything. And so it was really disconcerting because people the government here is taking it seriously, and most people are taking it seriously. But to see even my local grocery store here in Los Angeles, people just being very not caring. I mean, but there were people in mass. There was definitely.
But the collective attention span that we have a short attention span, as a country.
So how's your life? What are some ways your life has been different since the quarantines or the isolations?
The time thing is big, like losing track of time and dates and things like that. And it's weird, your responsibilities have changed. Like, because what are we going to do? What you can worry about wanting to get to work and being productive and things like that, but there's only so much you can do. So I've been playing a lot of music, trying to be productive in that way, and trying not to think about how long this might last,
Mm-hmm.
Like, start being productive and line up work for that might happen in October or next February. Like, I think we're still in this kind of waiting to see what this turns into and how long we're in this. So
it's a lot of instability for sure.
Yeah, that's a perfect word to use. It's very unstable.
Makes it hard to plan.
I find it hard to be creative when you have all this anxiety going on. You can't write the script that you want or any of those types of things. It's just hard to be creative with new stuff when you're just like amped up all the time, it seems like.
Yeah, someone keeps tossing out that horrible fact about how Shakespeare wrote, I can't remember which play it was during the plague. I'm like, thanks, way to make me feel super guilty.
Somebody put that out the first day, jerks.
They're like, so if you don't make an amazing, life-changing story.
If you're not Shakespeare, you're a loser.
But there has been some outlets of creativity, I think, that people have found, like the Saturday Night Live. I don't know if you had a chance to see that at all.
I didn't see it. I saw that he did it though.
Yeah.
It was all done on Zoom, and they did a bunch of Zoom skits like everyone, like you would think. You're like, someone should do something where there's like the Brady Bunch where there's 6 screens and someone's an idiot. Yeah, they did that.
Well, it was a very good.
It was funny.
It was very funny. It's been interesting to see people still trying to say, okay, this is what medium we have. How can we be creative? Like you did the Grace and Frankie table read.
Yeah, that was pretty cool.
Yeah, it was good to see everybody. And Lilly, like I've always said that those table reads are the most special part of that job for me. Being able to sit at that table. I think I've done, how many seasons have they done?
7.
Yeah, so I think I've been able to sit at 60 of those tables.
Wow.
Every single time, it's just as good as the first day. Because you're sitting there, Jane and Lilly are in the middle, both flanked by Martin next to Jane, Sam next to Lilly, and then we're filling out the rest of the seats. And watching Lily's mind understand what's on the page, because she's doing it, like she may have briefly looked over it, but a lot of the times that's her first exposure to it. And 5 or 6 times an episode, there'll be a joke that she'll say once and then go, oh, wait, and then say it with the intent of the line behind it. When
The proper delivery.
Fucking everybody on the floor just drops. Just fucking drops. And
That would be
fun.
That would be pretty amazing. Lily Tomlin's like definitely one of my top heroes for sure. What do you feel like you learn a lot then from that experience? Because they're all like, veteran actors. And
the thing that I noticed early on that I learned from them, because they're also brilliant dramatic actors, all of them.
Yeah.
And the only difference, the way they make their line funny, they'll turn up maybe the intent behind it and maybe do it a little bigger than you would for a drama, but they choose specific words within each line that makes that line funny. So the emphasis, they're just changing their dialogue emphasis on certain words, and they punch that one word, and then all of a sudden the fucking line is hysterical, and you get the joke. I remember realizing that one day. I was like, oh, that's how you do it.
Wow.
How long have you been doing this?
But I've never, and it's funny, I was thinking about this thing today, because we have that master class. Do you guys have that? Have you ever watched the master class stuff?
Yeah.
I got it.
One.
No, we don't teach
We
it.
teach one.
Do you?
Yeah, it's on how to do terrible podcasts and interrupt people while they're being interviewed. I'm a master.
He's really good.
If you can't tell.
So you're watching the master class.
We have Sunny watches it. It's her shower entertainment. She takes, because thank God iPhones are waterproof. So she takes the master class into the shower and listens while she's showering.
That
It's
is serious time discipline.
I know. But so today she was listening to Steve Martin, and he was talking about greatness, really. How do you turn something that's mediocre and has potential into something that's great? And he was talking about, also he touched on the idea of intent, finding the intent behind it, and then it's practice and specificity. You got to become specific with everything you do. And I started thinking, like, because when you watch Steve Martin and people like him, like Robin Williams, and Lily Tomlin, as an audience member, all of that seems completely spontaneous, and I wonder how much of that is actually a specific choice and how much of it is just spontaneous. And all of the stuff I do is spontaneous. Like, I don't get fucking specific at all. And will I become better at what I do if I do become specific, or will that make what I do, will I not be good at it anymore? You know what I mean?
I think the biggest factor you have to think about, though, is you have to enjoy it. You can't just go be like, I'm going to pigeonhole myself in this one specific thing, and even though I don't like it that much, but I'm going to get really famous. You got to go out there and do what you like. Have fun.
Specificity with a long leash, like being specific, but then open to.
Well, and I think everyone's process is different too, right? Like in stand-up, his process is he thinks of something that's funny and he writes it down and he works on it till he feels like it's. For me, I think about it and I kind of work it in my head, and then I write it on stage. So I say it a few different times on stage and try to find the funny in it.
Got it. Yep.
So I think everyone too has a different process, but it is cool that at this stage of the game that you're still learning and you're still soaking in information from the people around you to keep your craft
Improving
fresh.
your craft, yeah.
That's pretty cool.
I have a question for you though.
Here it's very official. He has a question.
Yeah. Is that a self-portrait painting behind you in the back there?
Sonny has a name for it. We found him. Our weekend addiction is going to antique stores in the van. Get in the van and go to a small town somewhere and go antiquing. So we found him. Apparently, he is late 1800s from Philadelphia. We do not know who that is, but you can see he's holding a book. Right, where is the book? Right there.
Yeah.
Book. So he's educated.
He's educated.
You didn't find any money behind it or anything?
I haven't even taken it out of the frame yet to see if it's signed on the back.
What's
the Declaration of the Independence is hidden behind that painting.
What is?
He could be a politician, a lawyer, Right.
That's interesting.
I think we call him Leslie, maybe.
He looks like a Leslie, like Gone with the Wind, Leslie, the guy from Gone with the Wind.
That is a Leslie.
Kind of more a sad little, not sad.
Fantastic. You can't see his eyes too great.
That's actually the prophet Joseph Smith from the Mormon Church. And that's
it could be.
Up there.
What's the medium? Is that oil? Is that?
Yeah, it's oil. There's a small, up on the top left, the canvas is a little stretched. We could repair it. Like if I take it down and it's some Library of Congress painter, then I'll get it repaired.
Wouldn't that be interesting if you've had it forever there and then someday you found out that this thing you got at the antique store, you're one of those people where you find out it's like a $5 million painting.
You mean people that win the fucking lottery? Like
yeah, that's those people.
For our luck would be, you would find out about that after you died. You're like a state would have.
My son or Sonny, if she's still around, then they did it. So it'd still be. We found one. We have this big piece that we work with a charity that works with kids in hospice. And one of the kids did this really awesome clown, like a screen print of this pink clown, huge.
Wow.
We never framed it because getting a frame that big was very expensive. And then one day we were at one of our antique hunts and we saw this huge gold-leafed, beautifully framed piece with what I thought was not a great still life painting inside of it.
Perfect.
So we took it, we got the frame for $40, cut that thing out of the back. And then as I'm looking at it, I see that it's signed and numbered, and then I see on the back of the frame, it has a dealer's information on it, like an.
You've already cut it?
And I had already cut it. And I was like, and I called them.
No.
I have one of these. I'm like, oh, great. And I said, well, is there any value? And they're like, let me check. We sold that for $6,500. I'm like, no!
You're like getting some tape out and shit. You're like trying to fix it. It's fine.
So instead of the frame, you have a clown now?
Yeah, it's great. The clown is awesome. He's hot pink. He's wearing a hat. He's smoking a cigarette. You would think a clown would have polka dot shirts on, but he has a checkered shirt on.
In a $6,500 frame. That's high class, my friend.
I'm sure it's a beautiful portrait of a clown, but that's my biggest fear, clown. So I can't even imagine a giant framed clown. Oh no!
I'm gonna send you a picture of it. I'll take a picture and I'll send it to you because he's kind of more hipster.
All right, if you send us the picture, then what we'll do is if you watch on the YouTube video, I'll insert it in the podcast now.
Hold on, this is going to take 2 damn seconds.
We'll fix this in post.
Well, this gives us
so far. How do you think the interview is going, Teresa?
I think it's great. I like his amp collection.
It's a really great background for Zoom. He's really improved over the last few times he's done it. We've watched his evolution of Zoom process.
I like the pink amp.
I mean, he's got a great background. It's got amps. He's got a microphone there. Okay.
Got it.
All right,
Check
here we
your
go.
phone. Check your phone, Doug.
Check it.
Check your phone, Dougie.
Check your phone, Doug.
This is so exciting. You really have a long password. Oh, I see. That's not
Okay.
as scary now.
That's not scary fun.
You know, he may even just be a hipster.
He is, but it's I could see it's clownish, but it's not like a scary clown that sees into your soul. There you go.
His
There you
eyes do follow you, and it's big. That thing is big.
Its eyes do follow you? Okay, maybe I'm going to take that back. I'll have to study the image, and if it shows up in my nightmares, I'll let you know.
It's a little spooky, but just the right kind of spooky.
So it's hard to plan for what you're going to do next, but you have some fun things this week. So this is going to air on Wednesday, what's the date today? The 15th. And this week, you have something really cool happening, right?
This week should be a lot of fun. So quick backup on it. Friday, Tom Everett Scott put together a text group of Tom Everett Scott, Jonathan Sheck, Steve Zahn, and myself. And that's the first time that all of us have even really communicated with each other in 20 years. I've been close with Jonathan. I've seen Tom every once in a while, but I haven't seen Steve in a long time. That's all the guys in the band from that thing. So Tom and Steve had been communicating, and they thought, because last week, Adam Schlesinger, who wrote and performed the That Thing You Do title song, passed away from COVID. So they started talking like, we should figure out how we can do something to honor him, and also maybe if we can raise some money for a charity that we pick. So that was on Friday. Today's Tuesday. And then by the end of the day, Friday, we had Music Cares, which is a music-based charity that works with the Grammy Academy. They were all on board helping us figure out how to do the stuff on YouTube and the donation links and all that kind of stuff. And then YouTube's helping us navigate any sort of copyright stuff, you know, so we don't get in trouble. What we're going to do next Friday, or I guess it's this Friday, April 17th at 4 p.m. Pacific Standard Time, 7 p.m. Eastern Standard Time, and midnight for our British friends. We're going to play That Thing You Do, and we're going to do a similar thing like what we're doing right now, and live stream that onto YouTube so everybody can hit play on their copy at home. And we're going to do commentary and talk and share stories while everybody watches. We're going to watch the movie together.
So each one of you is actually going to play on your part on Zoom. Is that the thing?
Like a full reenact? No, we're not getting that. We landed on a commentary.
I mean, you're set. All you got to do is plug in, and you're ready to rock and roll, dude.
I tried playing that bass this morning because it's bringing back some bass love. My fingers are not ready for that. I have this. There's one trick if you've been playing a lot of guitar lately, and then suddenly you need to pick your bass chops back up. A friend of mine taught me this trick with you can cover the tips of your finger in super glue. And I should have done that because now I've got 4 blisters after just a short hour of playing.
Yeah.
So is this like doing this Friday, which is going to be awesome, and I think it's a great way for you to also honor your friend, who's very talented, by the way. Also, my crazy ex-girlfriend wrote music for that.
Yep.
But has it also brought up a lot of memories from that time for you?
Yeah, it really has. Which is, the guys have been sending over pictures that they had in their what's the word that I'm looking for? You know, what are those called? Their albums. What are those called?
Photo album?
Yeah, photo album.
Group text?
Instagram?
Pinterest.
The older one. Archives. That's it. So the guys have been going through their archives of all of their, digitized film shots from back in the day. And we've been sharing them with each other, a bunch of behind the scenes stuff. And like this morning we did an interview with Rolling Stone, and getting us all up on the screen just like this, it reminds you how lovely they all were. And yeah, it was pretty great. I was 17, I think they're all above 21, or at least 21. I'm a little younger than the rest of them. But it was a pretty awesome time. I think Liv is in London, but she's supposed to be joining. I hope midnight's not too late for her to start, because she has a family now too. But I haven't seen Liv in over 20 years.
Wow.
So
that's really cool, though.
In that one scene, you guys are playing like the whole song, and then there's Tom Hanks is like standing there like looking at the crowd.
That's like the classic.
Did you guys ever work together on those days, or were those shot on separate days? Like,
no, we were all there. We, I think the one you're talking about, it must be the Pomona. So
yeah,
for all of the live, like as we progress through the charts and we're going around the country playing county fairs and stuff, we had the Pomona Fairgrounds for at least a few weeks, I think. Wow. And we used different parts of the fairgrounds to represent our progression,
that's cool.
Yeah, like playing one in a hangar, and then in like the small amphitheater, and then at the end when we got super popular and we're wearing the red suits.
That's the one, yeah.
Yeah, they had thousands of extras, and we were on the horse track, and set up the thing, and yeah, we got to be rock stars.
Can all of you actually play the instruments that you're acting?
By then, yeah, because what they did when we all got cast, I think Steve and Tom, I think today they said that they were coming in from New York. They were living in New York at the time. They were at least East Coast, both of them, Steve and Tom Everett Scott. And we each got music instructors to start teaching. I had been playing the bass, but none of them had played before. So for a few weeks after we got cast, all we would do is daily music lessons. And then when we got in the same city, once everybody was in Los Angeles, we would have 5-6 hour rehearsals where we would
be in a real band.
Yep. Play I guess there's 4 or 5 songs that we play on camera for the movie, and we would just play them over and over and over and over and over.
It must have been fun though, as a 17-year-old kid, to be like, they're paying me to do this shit.
What was the casting process like that, if you don't mind me asking?
I remember I went, I think I can't remember who the casting director was, but I had my first audition was with casting, and then my second audition, I didn't know Tom Hanks was going to be there. And I was a bit of a punk back in the day. I lots of nail polish and eyeliner, and
the 90s, right?
And I would be known to wear a dress.
The 90s.
I probably had a bunch of fingernail polish on, and the bass that I had at the time was an old Fender that was just covered with cutout collages and glued on and very punky looking. The input jack was a pornographic image, so
Oh, nice. I think you're really setting up the picture.
Tom was like, okay, I want this guy.
So basically I got lucky. But I thought the scene that I had for the audition, I thought that it would be good if my character, while he was doing the scene, was like piddling along on his bass.
Mm-hmm.
So I think I went in there and I played the Wizard of Oz, the Scarecrow, If I Only Had a Brain melody as I was doing the line, Got lucky.
That worked. It worked.
Was it so was he then in that audition that you did?
Yeah, Tom was in there.
Did that pull you out of your game for a second?
No, I mean, he was so cool, you know? He's so welcoming and laid back, and it was super intimate. I can't remember if there were other people. At most, there was one other person in the room. But it was in his office. They had already set up the production office, so it was his office for the production. And just super laid back, easy. You know, some auditions you go in and there's 50 people in there, you know?
Wow.
And that's stressful. That throws your game. It doesn't matter who those 50 people are.
I can't even imagine.
But it's like what you guys do with stand up, you know, you feed off of it. It's easier to perform in that environment if you're ready for it than it is to do it by yourself.
That's true. Definitely. That's definitely true.
Honestly, I think I've done both auditions and stand-up. I've auditioned for one person and I've auditioned for 10 or 15 people. And I've done comedy shows to 50 people and to 1 or 2 people. And
we just had our worst show.
It's just a matter of, let me finish what I wanted to say.
Oh, wait, sorry. Baby pumpkin.
You let Ethan talk all the time. It's like
he's being interviewed.
It's like he's our guest or something, and you let him do all the talking.
All right.
I sit here quietly like a good man.
Oh, dog, what?
Just finish your sentence.
I don't even remember now. They're both hard, and I think you just have to get practice makes it easier.
Well, I was going to say we had one of our worst shows ever recently. It was
This was before all of this insanity.
This was pre-COVIDs.
Pre-COVID.
Yeah, pre-COVs. It was a paying gig, so we took it, even though it was a private party in a living room in Santa Clarita, and it was like.
And it paid really good.
It paid really well.
Way better than any club.
And it was like a private show right after the holidays.
What were they celebrating?
They were there's like a reunion.
It was a Christmas, pre-Christmas, no.
It was
Thanksgiving.
it was some type of a holiday party.
Holiday party that they had like 30 people
and it was like a high school reunion type thing. And they said it was going to be 30 people, which is actually not so bad stand-up, right? Even in the living room. It ended up being like 12 people. And they decided to do the comedy show before they ate lunch or had anything to drink.
Oh, sober and hungry. Ugh.
Oh.
They were like, hurry up, we're hungry, hurry up.
It was so hard. Because also they wanted it to be like the dirty version of our show, which we do like a couples theme and we go back and forth.
You said lunch, so this was like midday.
This was bright, light, shiny day outside.
Somebody's house. And one of us was funny. We'll let you guess which one.
It wasn't me that time. No.
That's why I bring it up.
I couldn't get over the fact that I'm talking about sex jokes in the middle of the day to some very disapproving middle-aged, like, suburban couples.
She's doing blowjob jokes and the mothers are going earmuffs to their
no,
children.
No, that wasn't that bad. It wasn't that bad. It was actually quite tame. It was very PG-13, but... So, intimate shows.
Comedy is another one of those, you know, industries that's just slammed right now.
I don't know when. If it's going to kill all of the clubs, but maybe 2 or 3, I would guess. And those have to be the big major ones.
It's going to be hard because even when things get back to normal, to go into a live show with a microphone and, you know, the whole thing, the best comedy shows are the ones that are intimate.
Yeah, everybody's sitting on top of each other. You're all sharing microphones.
But we have so many friends that are just, you know, they're being innovative and they're doing Zoom stand-up shows and they're doing online stand-up, which I haven't even started to attempt yet, but I probably will eventually.
Like you watch John Oliver's show. Do you guys watch the last week tonight?
He's been hilarious just from home.
What is that too, though? Like that's
All
it
the
makes
late
you
night
realize
guys.
how much the crowd does play into it because
it wouldn't really affect us much. We could do Zoom shows because it's just like our real live shows.
Yeah,
just, there's no response.
You don't usually hear people laughing
It's just
at you
nothing.
anyway.
Just silence.
Oh, I wish that wasn't true.
Hello, is this thing on?
So what do you see kind of what's next for you? So you go back and you film Grace and Frankie, the season's over. Do you have like any aspirations or dreams for your?
Those are too depressing. I've stopped having those a long time ago.
I think you'd make a great Joe Exotic, is what I think, though.
Dreams are frustrating, man. I mean, that's kind of what I mean too. Like being in this place that we're at, we don't know what's gonna happen and how long this is gonna last, and what we're going back to when it is over. And so I find myself thinking more about us, the globe, community, America, the world. And so it makes it really hard for me to even start thinking, what am I gonna do? What's our family? You know, I haven't gotten to that place yet.
It's like, do I work on my resume, or do I learn watch videos on how to plant my own food?
Yeah.
That's the choices you're trying to make right now.
Yeah. We just don't know. I mean, I don't even know yet if we're going to go back and finish. You know, they say that we are to go back and finish the 7th season, and I'm sure that that's what a lot of them are counting on. And the only way that I can deal with the possibility that we won't is to just wait and see and not count on it, you know? Because dreams are depressing.
Well, I think it's really valid, and I think that a lot of people are feeling the same thing, and no matter what world they're in, you know, like, you know, friends of ours who are in the industries that aren't allowed to be right now, like in retail and in food service, and like they're in this weird hiatus of life where you just don't know what's next. And I think maybe for you, as someone who's been an actor and a freelancer, I mean, for you, is it normal, that feeling of a hiatus, or you're not sure what's coming next? Is that something that you've kind of been used to in that world?
Yeah, that's definitely not foreign, and I'm sure you guys feel that same thing. It's a sort of go where the wind takes you kind of lifestyle, you know? And you can have goals set and ideas, but like really, even before this started, I bet you guys couldn't have guessed that you were going to be doing what you're doing now and living how you're living, you know?
No, not at all. I mean, we were planning on...
We were going to be in Italy right now. That's where we were going to be.
Yeah.
We were going to buy one of them dollar houses.
I know. We were just talking about that. I wonder what Italy is going through, how it's going to affect that thing that they were doing.
At first, it was kind of funny. Of like, oh, there'll be a lot more houses available now.
Okay, that's how a dark comedian jokes. No, that's just horrible. I can't believe you said that out loud in public.
No, at first people would say that, and they would say, oh, that's funny. But now it's like they're going to be really hurting, and they're going to need people to come over there and help more than they ever have before.
Well, that's probably...
And the vulnerable people that were really, you know, before that were having trouble.
Yeah, I mean...
There's going to be as many people capable of doing it, you know, because you do have to have a little bit of a savings or a good credit history to go and do the remodeling or
well, I mean,
you know,
to a point. I mean, that's you definitely have to be able to either do it yourself and be able to keep it going financially as you're doing it yourself, or you're right, have good credit and be able to finance a good amount. But the way that it's been working is the houses that they're doing, basically they're giving away for cheap, is because they have to pay more taxes, the highest level of taxes if they have more than one house. So what happens is their grandparents pass and they inherit the home of their parents, and they have their own place that they've been bought and purchased. And
already in the main city. So it's a second home.
So it's cheaper for them just to get rid of it than it is to pay the taxes. So unfortunately, with what's happened, a lot of the older people in those villages are probably now, a lot of them have been passing even more so. And now what you have are these almost ghost towns, maybe, of villages. So it should be interesting. So there's that, on high notes, happy joy. There's been some questions we've been asking everybody before we end the podcast. So first question, they're all about the quarantines. The first question is, there's a lot that's out of our control right now. That's out of everyone's control. People feel a little bit out of control. But what have you found that is still current, that you still have control over in your life, or that you've been able to take control over?
Two separate things. Because what I do have control over, and then sometimes what I fail at controlling. I can wake up still at a certain time and continue to have a responsible bedtime, but I seem to have not had great control over that recently. There was one day something happened this weekend. I think I just got overwhelmed, focused on too much things out there, so I couldn't sleep. Like full scale insomnia. And I realized, okay, you're not working out, you're not exercising, so of course your brain and your body has all of this extra energy. So you need to start doing that. And I still haven't done it. So bedtime, waking up, and exercise, and I'm failing. I'm not doing good.
But you recognize you need to do it, and that's the first step.
Yeah, but that's like somebody congratulating you for getting sober. Like, no, I wasn't supposed to smoke heroin every day. And I can say that because that's coming from experience. Like, don't clap because I'm not smoking heroin.
Oh, I wasn't. I wasn't.
I was about to. So
I wasn't going to
stop me.
I was like, nobody likes a quitter.
Oh my God. Oh my gosh, we're gonna just skip right over that. And then another question is, what lessons have you learned during this whole crazy time that we've been in, or have you learned any lessons?
I
learned how to work Zoom a lot better. We've seen progression.
Yeah. The one we did last week was my first one. But the first thing that comes to mind is how mature my son has come in a short period of time. Because he's had his job for over a year, and done that very responsibly, and he's had his apartment now for 7 or 8 months. But how he's handling all of this and how serious he's taking it and how careful he's being with his new financial situation has been, but that's not me, that's him. I've just realized something about him that was already there.
That's something you're learning still from all this.
Yeah. But other than that, I think the lessons that I'll take from it I'll know later. I'm a lot better at hindsight than I am at.
I think we all are.
Yeah. What about you guys? What lessons are you picking up?
I've learned that I blink way too loud.
Yeah, you do.
Also, you lose your sense of taste and smell if you have COVID.
Oh, don't you even.
Yeah.
And I keep getting COVID smell tests constantly all day long to make sure that I still have a sense of smell.
It's your fault that you decided we were going to be vegans, all right?
Who's giving the smell test? Is this Ginger or Teresa?
You know what? We're not going to talk about this.
You can't see on the podcast, but on video.
I think I'm learning to kind of speak to what you said about all the things that you could or should. I think I'm learning to be more gentle with myself, because it's like I wake up with these super high expectations. Like, I should work on this series Bible. I should work on this script. I should work on all of these things, plus my work that I'm grateful to be able to do from home. And then the end of the day, I would get really discouraged. I didn't do any of that. I didn't exercise. I didn't do anything productive. And I found that I needed to be gentle with myself, because a lot of the stress and the things like that, it compounds it more when you're telling yourself you're not doing good enough. And it can't hold me back anymore, because I deal with depression and anxiety, and it just can spiral that out of control.
And that's something that you can apply to when this is over too.
Exactly.
And then it's that finding that perfect balance of actually being motivated and doing it, but also cutting yourself a break and allowing yourself to not always be perfect with it.
Exactly. Which I think there's a lot of things I personally don't do because I'm a perfectionist and I don't think it's perfect enough. So I just don't do it. And that's just ridiculous.
I do
Totally
that.
back.
I do that 'cause I'm lazy. It's not because I'm a perfectionist.
Well, maybe I just say it's because I'm a perfectionist, so I don't feel as lazy. But sounds better, right?
I've learned.
What have you learned?
I've learned that I've been in training for this for a long time, and I'm really good at it, and I'm enjoying it. So.
Yeah, your Boy Scout past, your Mormon growth.
No, I'm talking about just sitting on the couch doing nothing.
Oh,
I'm
yeah.
really good at it. I'm professional.
People, do you miss the social interact? Because you do seem sociable, but it does. I bet that you are very easily. I think Doug could do without people, but you do well with people. But I don't think you want a loss of them.
I'm mostly an introvert, and the whole reason I got into comedy was because I was recently divorced and was just sitting at home for weeks without ever going out. And I was like, I need to go do something. So I started doing stand-up comedy, and I would force myself to go out and talk to people and be in social situations. And then it ended up where I found somebody and got married. So.
Wow, that sounds so romantic.
Voice inflection. That was the acting lessons I learned from Ethan earlier in the episode.
That was really
It's the
romantic.
emphasis on which words.
Yeah.
He didn't emphasize someone. He said found someone. He didn't say found someone.
That's true.
I found someone and got married.
Okay, that's the emphasis on all the words, which is too much emphasis.
He'd be in trouble if he hit someone instead of found.
Yeah.
Someone.
Yeah.
No, I get what you're saying.
You didn't do that.
Actually, there's an exercise that I used to do with stand-up where I would take my jokes and I would put the emphasis on different words to see what came out of it. So it reminded me of that. Okay, so another question. There's only two more. What better version of myself or yourself do you see emerging from this time of quarantine? Or can you see that? Can you see growth that you've already had? Or
we just mentioned the things you learn now you can take with you afterwards too.
Yeah.
We didn't mean.
You
hurt him.
What's that?
You hurt him. He's broken.
I'm probably very self-centered in my actions, but I'm not. I don't think about when I have to think about myself. I get stumbled. But I probably do many self-centered actions without realizing them. I'm sure someone would attest to that. But I don't know,
No, I think that's super valid. It's been interesting because as we've asked everyone that question, it's been, I think, you're the 9th or 10th person that we've done with this quarantine edition so far, it's kind of halvesies. So either half the people are like, this is how I'm changing, this is how I'm going to be. And then the other half is really kind of where you're at, which is like, I don't know what's going to happen tomorrow. I don't know what my life's going to even look like in a week.
And I'm curious if the people that do know will agree that needs to happen when it's over, like their change. If they still want to make that change once we get back to whatever new normal it is.
That is a really interesting statement, because if you think about environmentally, like LA is one of the cleanest places in the world right now as far as air quality, and it's beautiful, and it's like all over the world is like this. And okay, we could finish this and be like, okay, let's figure out how to make this the new normal, this aspect of it, this silver lining. But how many of us are literally going to think that and then the next day get in our cars and be in the
Fill
traffic?
her up. Gas is $2. Oh my God, we're going everywhere.
It's so easy in situations like this to pop right back into who you were, and that's over.
I talked to a climatologist on Twitter, also as an interesting Twitter community. And the woman was saying, because I did bring up how the O2 levels are dropping, is this a positive, and is this a silver lining? And she said, it's going to be so short-lived that there's not going to be any effect on our warming. We would have to do this for 50 years to see a difference.
Oh.
Wow.
She said, unfortunately, I don't want to be a Debbie Downer on this, but she was saying most likely the need to start our economy back up again to make up for lost time, she said you'll probably see a lot of global regulations cut. All of the things they were trying to do, they'll say, we're not going to do that this year, and go back to the way things were in the 80s just to get shit moving again.
They've already done that a lot. They've already changed a lot of the EPA restrictions and stuff recently. They've done all that.
Yeah.
Like, you're right. Yeah. Well, and then there's going to be a spike probably of like trying to get it all started up, and then with no restrictions, it'll probably make it even worse than what we've.
That was her fear. You know.
So,
Hey!
He's so much fun. I love Ethan.
No, I think it's interesting because it's like there's that excitement of like, oh yay, look how clear and wonderful and everything it looks right now, and this like I don't like saccharinous, is that not the right word, but like this like just yay, everything could be wonderful. But I think it's important to think about that and then think about what we can do after this is over. Like I know that you work with Jane Fonda, and she has her Fire Drill Fridays, and I went and saw her speak about it at the work group that I belong to in LA, and it's interesting that it's easy to be a Twitter activist. There's a helicopter. It's easy to be a Twitter activist, but it's like, okay, well, there are things that we can do, and it's a good reminder that we still need to do those things when this is over. We still need to like do things.
Absolutely.
So it's not too much of a downer. It's just more of a reality check. So it's okay, Ethan. Okay. So the last question is, because it's a travel show that we have, and we're not traveling right now, one of the questions that we've been asking people is, in your bucket list, once this has all been done and the COVIDs are gone and everyone has been getting their vaccine and the treatments and everything's wonderful, and they're like, go and jump on a plane and see the world.
For $30.
For $30.
Because gas is $2 a gallon.
And all the airlines need people.
And we own the airlines. They're now state-run institutions because we've bailed them out.
The government.
Well, they should be, but they probably won't be. But yeah, so they'll still charge us $1 million for our bags. Where are some of the places that you want to still visit?
South America. Definitely. I haven't been down there. Have you guys ever been to South America?
We went to Peru a couple years ago, and that was awesome.
We just did a podcast with my kids talking about the trip that we took to Peru, Machu Picchu, and the Amazon rainforest.
It was the first time we took his kids international. It was really cool.
I want to see that side of it, the Peruvian and Chilean, and then I want to see too their sort of European cities like Argentina, you know.
Buenos Aires and
that would be amazing. I want to see Portugal. Have you guys been to Portugal?
No.
We have not been to Portugal.
And it's on our list. It's like right at the tippy top of our list. We thought about actually looking at places to purchase there, homes and whatnot.
Portugal is so popular.
It's also a good budget location to visit.
And we were looking too, because with speaking of budget and having the van and all that. Just yesterday I don't know a lot about the northern United States, Detroit and St. Paul. It'd be nice to go for a drive up there.
I would recommend going in the summer.
Well, the Upper Peninsula.
Don't go in the winter or fall.
Well, early fall is nice.
Early fall.
The Upper Peninsula, we did shows up there. It's beautiful. It's so pretty. Yeah, that's cool.
Badlands too. I really like to see the Badlands.
Badlands was so cool. It's like got this vantage point. You pull off the freeway. You can't even see it. You pull just off to the freeway. You walk 10 feet, and there's this huge vantage point. You can see forever these rolling little hills, and there's wild horses that were running through it and shit. We were like, holy shit. And you get back on the freeway, and it's just like freeway, like you don't see anything.
But you can camp and stuff in there. We just happened to just do a drive-by.
There's new, because when we were growing up, and the way they told us that those rock formations in Utah and the Grand Canyon were formed, when I was a kid, I was told that over thousands of years, a tiny river cut this massive gorge, blah, blah, blah. There's new geologists that think that may have happened in a single event, that during the Ice Age, when things were changing, there would be a massive lake this bigger than our Great Lakes of melted glaciers. And I think it's up in Montana where there's these two mountains, and they said that there was an ice dam that was still in place that hadn't melted. But in one day, that dam gave way, and just an ocean-size wall of water came ripping through. I guess that would be the Northwest, Midwest, just.
But actually,
So a lot of geologists think that may have happened in one event.
so that actually proves that God did it in one day.
It could have been the flood. We'll talk about this later.
Boom.
We almost did an Easter episode because he's agnostic and I'm Christian. So we almost did an Easter episode where we talk about things like, but we decided that it would just be a big fight and no one wants to see that.
I think it would be quite popular.
Oh, I don't know. I would just get infuriated and walk away.
I think
That's what happens when I'm right all the time.
I wonder what would be more interesting is if you guys got along and could communicate, or if it did devolve into just an awful experience.
That's the beauty of it.
Like that.
I love a train wreck.
Well, and honestly, I think that's our only thing that never goes well. Like we could talk about anything and have any dispute, but when we start talking about religion, it just spirals into an icky place. So we just don't do it.
And I are on the same. She's religious and I'm not. But I guess the way it doesn't become an argument is I understand what it does for her, and she's okay with me being where I'm at as long as I'm not about to die, because that's when she gets really concerned that,
Pick you one of them religions that does the deathbed repentance and you'll be just fine.
Supposedly Christianity has that.
You're good and golden.
Yeah, I was talking to this guy that went to seminary school, and apparently we get one shot, like when we show up at the gate. I don't know if it's Paul or Peter or one of those guys. Is like, hey, you got one more chance.
Well, is that fair? At that point, it's just like, well, obviously.
I thought you had to do it before you died, though. So, like, when I got in my car accident, instead of saying, oh, shit, I should have said, God forgive me. So I got to practice, God forgive me. That's how I'm going to learn to cuss from now on.
All right.
The guy said we get one shot.
Was he Catholic? Was that Catholic? Yeah.
That's what maybe he's wrong.
No, it's Catholic. It's the whole purgatory thing, too. Mormons, They have that.
Mormons have that, too. You still get a second chance, too. So there's two you could choose from right there.
I wonder if they're next to each other, if it's like a fork in the road, Like you got your Catholic gates over there, and
it's just a path. It's all clouded up, and you just have to choose which fork to take.
And one's very European, and one's very Salt Lake City.
Oh, those are my two choices. I'm going to go for European. That was like no offense to Salt Lake City, but I've lived there, and Europe's better.
So wait, though.
Yeah.
So Jesus comes back to Earth, and
is this a joke?
Yeah, this is a joke. This is a bar joke. Okay. So Jesus comes back to Earth for the second coming, and he makes a phone call. He calls the prophet of the Mormon church, and the prophet is like, they're like, prophet, Jesus is on the phone, and he's all excited. He's like, oh my, Jesus has come back, and he's calling me. And he gets on the phone, and he's like, hello, Jesus. And Jesus goes, hello, prophet. Good news and bad news. And the prophet's like, you're back. What could be bad news? And he's like, well, the good news is I am back. But the bad news is I'm calling from Vatican City.
Oh, because, he's Catholic.
Yeah, you were wrong. And you can tell that either way.
They usually do the other way for Mormons, but I do it that way out of respect.
Yeah, he could easily be I'm
calling from Salt Lake City.
Yeah, easily. It works both ways, that joke.
It's a both ways joke.
This is exciting. I feel like
I've learned that Ethan is really good at diagnosing comedy so far. He's done that really.
Is there a way he could tie L. Ron Hubbard in too?
Oh, that one.
I'm calling from Salt Lake City. Hold on, I got Hubbard online too.
We'll make this a group call and get it all over with at once.
I think Tom would like that joke. If Tom would appreciate that joke. Tom Cruise, if you reeled in
Tom Cruise.
Yeah. Yeah. I have stories about that, but I'm not going to go there. Okay. So thank you so much, Ethan. We're about to wrap up. Is there any last thing that you want to share with people?
Just that it was really good to see you guys. Good to see you guys are healthy.
Yeah, buddy.
Everything's going well there.
Thank you so much for
hoping to come back. We most likely, if we go to finish, we'll be, I'll call Steve and see if he's got a spot for me. Because Cedar's nice to him now, so I think my chances are good for getting.
Cedar's his dog.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. I think we figured that out in the earlier part of the episode.
I was out walking the dog. I didn't hear that part.
We really appreciate you taking the time. I mean, you met with Rolling Stone earlier and then our little podcast. So thank you so much for taking the time to be on this with us. And we will be watching that thing you do on YouTube. We'll watch on ours and watch everybody else on YouTube. And we'll put a link to that out as well.
Is the name of the band the Oneaters?
The Wonders.
Oneaters.
There's two ways to spell it, and there's the Wonders, which is W, like Wonder Bread, and then there's Wonders where you spell O-N-E.
Right. Just the joke of the show.
Right. So I like calling it the O-N-E Wonders, but I guess the appropriate way is the W-O in the Wonder Bread version.
Could you say it both ways for us?
Wonders.
Yeah.
Wonders.
It's both the same.
Oh, yeah. Okay. Got it.
Apparently, It's been a while since he's seen the movie. So
I haven't seen that movie in decades.
I haven't.
So the link to watch it on Friday, 4 p.m. Pacific Standard Time, 7 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. Go to youtube.com/The Wonders Live.
Spelled O-N-E?
W-O-N-D-E-R.
Okay.
Like Wonder Bread.
Like the Wonder Bread, yep.
All right. And we'll have a link to it on all the things. And thank you so much, Ethan.
Thank you, guys. Really good to see you.
Thanks for listening to Around the World with the He and She Show. With your hosts, Doug and Teresa Wyckoff. If you like our show and want to know more, check out our website, theheandseshow.com. Support us by subscribing on iTunes and leaving us a positive review. Safe travels till we visit again next week.